Okay, so here is the captive portal. Let's go through the changes one by one. So the first change was to able to set the temperature units. So when we connect to our device, it's connected, and when we refresh our page, so you can see here is the temperature units radio buttons. You can select Celsius or Fahrenheit depending upon your requirements. The second change was to have a table with historical data after 5 minutes, while the third one was similar, but the historical data was should be in the JSON format. So if we go to the API, so here's the historical data. Once it's connected to the Wi-Fi network, the historical data will keep updating. And if we go to the home, here's the historical data in tabular form. It will work once the system is connected to the Wi-Fi network. The fourth change was to change the configure AP tab to connect to Wi-Fi. So here's the connect to Wi-Fi button, and the fifth was similar, but the second tab name was changed to save to the Wi-Fi networks. So these changes will take effect once you upload the new code with the new JSON data along with the libraries that I have shared with you. So going to the sixth change, so the disconnect Wi-Fi, there was a button named disconnect Wi-Fi. So it was for testing, and you don't really need to disconnect the Wi-Fi. You can just go to the connect to Wi-Fi tab and connect to any Wi-Fi without disconnection. So it will automatically handle the disconnection and reconnection. The seventh change was to remove a radio button named both. So here I had 3 buttons, vibration, current, and third one was both. So again, the both button was for testing, so it's removed. You don't need to use the both button. So the 8th change was to display the live sensor values. So if you go to the live sensors tab, you can see the live sensor values. So I haven't connected any sensor, so it will give 0 for timing, but once the sensors are connected, it will give you the correct values. While the 9th change was so the amps reading which are in watts were not correct when the sensor is not connected. So the reason is explained in the point number 9. So whenever an ADC pin is floating, which means that it is not connected to anything, it will actually give 0, or it may give some random value. So in my case it is giving 0, but sometimes it gives like 0.21 and things like that. For that reason, you have to connect the pin to ground, or you can connect the ADC pin to like 3.3 volts, so that it gives 0 or maybe full value if the sensor is not connected. So the point is, if you don't have any sensor connected, you should connect it to the ground, or the sensor should have a circuit that, or maybe you can just simply use wire and connect it to the ground. So that's why the floating pen gives random values and can be eliminated by connecting the pen to the ground. Okay, so next amp measure. So there were like few label changes which were done. One more change was we had here. So there was one change which is change number 8. The actual live sensor values need to be displayed on the settings page. So if you go to the settings page, you will see the live sensor values here. You can even refresh the sensor values. So it don't automatically refresh that, because automatic refreshing use JavaScript, and JavaScript should be used for automatic refreshing of these two components individually, and that will take a lot of space, leaving us no room for the sensor, tabular data, and JSON values. So it's better if you just connect sensors and manually click on refresh if you want to see the live value. So if I click on refresh, so in my case no sensors are connected, my floating pin is giving value 0. So here's the value. So going down, the last change was to have the blink modes, LED blink status is implemented. So these are already implemented. So now the project, now the ESP32 is in captive portal mode, so it should be doing medium blinks with 1000 millisecond on and 1000 millisecond off. It is not connected to the Wi-Fi. So let's see it here. So it's 1 second on and 1 second off. So the status is being implemented correctly. Now let's connect it to the Wi-Fi network. So now if I go to connect to the Wi-Fi network tab, and let's see if I have already the network saved in the saved Wi-Fi networks tab. Okay, so let's go here, connect to the Wi-Fi network. So it's searching nearby Wi-Fi networks now. Let's type the password. Okay, so it's connected to the Wi-Fi network and it is connected to the MQTT broker as well. Now you can go to sensors reading. Okay, so we were looking at the change that it should start the active mode, which is 200 millisecond on and 200 millisecond off of LED blink status. So now you can see it's in active mode and the blink status is working correctly. And again, if somehow the system goes to idle state, like maybe if Wi-Fi is disconnected or the sensor is not working very properly, or more specifically, if the Wi-Fi is disconnected for some reason or MQTT broker is disconnected, it will go to the idle state with the idle state. Okay, one extra change is you can even connect open the captive portal by using the address esp32.local. So it is universal. So the ESP32 is running an MDNS server, which means that we can use our own DNS server on ESP32, which is a mobile version of this DNS server. So I have put its name esp32.local. So when it is in access point mode, you can use this address to access the captive portal, and even if it is connected to the Wi-Fi network, you can even use this name. It will work. So in most of the cases, MDNS usually typically works every time, but there are a few cases, like if you are using Windows laptop, or maybe the browser is not compatible with DNS servers, with the local DNS servers, or maybe your router is blocking, your Wi-Fi router is blocking this thing, so it will not work. For that reason, we will use OLED to communicate the IP address, but most of the time the ESP32.local address will typically work. So the historical data and the JSON API data is being pushed to the local storage of ESP32 after every 5 minutes. So that's how it's working for now. So all the changes mentioned in the updates document are implemented correctly. In order to reflect these changes on your side, you should upload this code, and then you should upload the space data, and then you should use the newest library. So the first you will have to replace the old libraries with the newer one in the libs folder. Then you can like upload the space and this firmware, and it will work.